The ring disappeared in less than 30 seconds. One moment, it was resting inside a velvet jewelry box worth more than most people earned in a year. The next, it was gone. Every eye in the mansion turned toward the newest maid. She froze. She hadn't touched the ring. But then someone screamed, "Check her pockets." Why did everyone believe she was guilty so quickly? Why did one family member refuse to let the police arrive? And why did the mansion's security cameras suddenly stop working at the exact moment the ring vanished? What happened next would leave an entire city speechless. Before we uncover the truth, take 1 second to subscribe and turn on notifications. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the person everyone blames is the only innocent one in the room. Emma Carter was 26 years old. She wasn't rich. She wasn't powerful. Most people never noticed her. Every morning before sunrise, she tied her dark brown hair into a neat bun, put on a clean gray uniform, and quietly boarded the city bus to work. While other passengers stared at their phones, Emma looked out the window, watching expensive neighborhoods pass by like another world she could never enter. Her life was simple. She rented a tiny apartment with peeling paint. She cooked cheap meals. She saved every extra dollar inside an old coffee can hidden beneath her bed. No vacations. No luxury. No complaints. People described her with the same words. Kind. Quiet. Reliable. Invisible. But behind her calm smile was a pain she never shared. Every Friday evening after work, Emma visited a small rehabilitation center on the other side of town. Room 214. Her father. Years earlier, he had suffered a severe stroke while working construction. The accident stole his speech and left one side of his body almost completely paralyzed. Emma became everything. His daughter. His caretaker. His provider. She worked 2 jobs for years until exhaustion finally forced her to choose one that paid better. That job was cleaning the mansion of the Whitmore family, the richest family in Brookhaven. People admired them. Magazines featured their home. Charities praised their generosity. News reporters called them the city's perfect family. But perfection is often the easiest mask to wear. The Whitmore estate looked more like a luxury hotel than a home. White stone walls. Towering glass windows. Gardens trimmed with impossible precision. A fountain stood proudly in the circular driveway, its water sparkling under the morning sun. Emma still remembered her first day walking through those enormous front doors. She had been terrified. Everything felt too expensive to touch. Even the silence sounded wealthy. The head housekeeper, Margaret Lewis, greeted her with a polite smile. Margaret was in her late 50s. She carried herself with military discipline. Every wrinkle on her face looked earned through years of responsibility. "There are 2 rules here," Margaret said firmly. "Respect the family. And never enter the master bedroom unless you're told." Emma nodded immediately. "I understand." Margaret studied her for a second. "You seem honest." Emma smiled softly. "I try to be." Margaret didn't smile back. Trying isn't enough in this house. Emma didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. Over the next several weeks, Emma learned everyone's routines. Richard Whitmore, 62. Founder of a successful investment company. Calm. Confident. Always dressed perfectly. People respected him instantly. But Emma noticed something strange. He rarely smiled inside his own home. Then there was his wife, Victoria Whitmore. Elegant. Beautiful. Always surrounded by expensive jewelry. She treated kindness almost like a performance. Whenever guests visited, Victoria praised the staff loudly. "Our employees are family." But once the guests left, her tone changed. "Emma, you're late by 2 minutes. The flowers aren't facing the right direction. The silverware reflects fingerprints." Nothing was ever good enough. Still, Emma never argued. She simply apologized and continued working. Then there was Daniel, the Whitmore's only son. 32 years old. Successful on social media. Handsome. Charming. Everyone loved him. He smiled constantly. He joked with employees. He even remembered Emma's name. "Morning, Emma. Thanks for keeping this place running." Small words. But they mattered. For the first time, Emma believed maybe this family wasn't as cold as people assumed. Margaret noticed. "Don't mistake politeness for character," she whispered one afternoon. Emma looked confused. "What do you mean?" Margaret simply returned to polishing a crystal vase. "You'll learn." A week later, another person entered the story. Sophia Reynolds, Daniel's fiancée. She arrived wearing a cream-colored dress that matched the luxury cars parked outside. She hugged everyone. She laughed easily. She thanked every employee personally. Even Emma. "You're doing an amazing job." Emma smiled. "Thank you." Sophia looked genuine. Too genuine. Margaret watched silently from across the room. Again, she said nothing, but her expression changed. Almost like she recognized something no one else could see. One rainy afternoon, Emma accidentally overheard an argument. She wasn't eavesdropping. She had been dusting the upstairs hallway when voices echoed through the partially open study door. Victoria sounded furious. "You promised this wouldn't happen." Richard answered quietly. "I'm handling it." "No, you're hiding it. If Daniel finds out." The room fell silent. Emma quickly walked away before anyone noticed. She tried forgetting what she'd heard, but those words stayed with her. If Daniel finds out. Find out what? Days passed. Life returned to normal. Or, at least, it appeared to. Then one morning, Margaret handed Emma a polishing cloth. "The Whitmores are hosting their annual charity gala tomorrow night." Emma nodded. "I've seen pictures. This year's different." "How?" Margaret hesitated. "The family will unveil the Ashcroft Diamond." Emma blinked. "The famous ring?" Margaret nodded. "The one everyone talks about." Emma had heard stories. The Ashcroft Diamond Ring wasn't just valuable. It was legendary. A flawless blue-white diamond surrounded by rare pink stones. Collectors offered millions. Museums wanted to display it. Insurance companies considered it nearly priceless. Victoria loved reminding everyone it had belonged to her grandmother. "It represents our family's honor," she often said. Preparations consumed the mansion. Florists arrived. Chefs filled the kitchens. Musicians rehearsed. Luxury cars came and went. Reporters requested interviews. The entire estate transformed into a palace ready for royalty. Emma worked longer hours. She barely slept. Still, she never complained. Every extra hour meant more money for her father's treatment. That alone kept her moving. The morning before the gala, Emma stopped by the rehabilitation center. Her father sat quietly beside the window. He couldn't speak, but his eyes still carried warmth. Emma gently held his hand. "I got more overtime." She smiled. "We're getting closer." His fingers squeezed hers weakly. She opened the coffee can in her backpack. Inside, neatly folded bills. Months of savings. "I'm not giving up." A tear rolled down his cheek. Emma quickly wiped it away. "I know." Before leaving, she kissed his forehead. "I'll see you tomorrow." She had no idea tomorrow would change everything. The gala arrived. The mansion glowed under thousands of golden lights. Luxury vehicles lined the driveway. Women wore sparkling gowns. Men arrived in tailored tuxedos. Music floated through every hallway. Champagne glasses clinked. Camera flashes lit the entrance every few seconds. Emma and the staff stayed almost invisible, exactly as planned. Serve. Smile. Disappear. Around 8 o'clock, Victoria gathered the guests inside the grand ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen," the room became silent. "Tonight, I'd like to share a piece of our family's history." 2 security guards rolled out a reinforced glass display case. Inside rested the Ashcroft Diamond Ring. Gasps spread across the room. Its diamond reflected the chandelier above, sending tiny flashes of light across the walls. Phones appeared instantly. Everyone wanted a picture. Victoria smiled proudly. "It has remained in our family for nearly 100 years." Applause filled the room. Emma watched quietly from the back. To her, it was just another beautiful object. Nothing more. Nothing worth destroying a life over. As the evening continued, guests wandered through the mansion. Some admired paintings. Others explored the gardens. The ballroom slowly emptied. Emma was assigned to clean the upstairs lounge before dessert was served. She carried fresh towels and quietly entered the hallway. As she rounded the corner, she noticed something odd. Daniel was standing alone outside the jewelry room. He looked nervous. Very nervous. He kept checking his watch. Then his phone buzzed. He answered immediately. Emma couldn't hear every word. Only one sentence. "No, not tonight." His face turned pale. A second later, he noticed Emma. He forced a smile. "You scared me." "I'm sorry." "No worries." He slipped his phone into his pocket unusually fast. Then he walked away without another word. Emma frowned. Why had he looked so frightened? 5 minutes later, a loud scream echoed through the mansion. It was Victoria. Guests rushed toward the jewelry room. Employees followed. Emma dropped the towels and ran with everyone else. Victoria stood beside the empty display case. Her hands shook violently. The glass door was open. The velvet cushion inside was empty. The Ashcroft Diamond Ring had disappeared. Silence swallowed the room. No one moved. No one breathed. Then Victoria slowly turned her head. Her eyes locked onto Emma. She was here. Every face turned. Emma's heart stopped. I just arrived." Victoria stepped forward. "You were upstairs." "So was I." "You knew where the jewelry room was." Emma stared in disbelief.
"What?"
Richard raised a hand. "Let's stay calm." But another voice interrupted. "Search her." Emma looked around. She couldn't even tell who had shouted it. Suddenly, several guests began whispering. "The new maid. I don't recognize her. Didn't someone say she needed money?" Emma's breathing became faster. "I didn't take anything." No one answered. One security guard slowly approached her. Another blocked the hallway behind her. Emma looked toward Margaret. The older woman remained completely still. But for the first time, Emma saw fear in Margaret's eyes. Not fear that Emma was guilty. Fear that something much bigger had just begun. Then Victoria pointed directly at Emma. "Check her apron." The room fell completely silent. Emma's trembling hands slowly reached toward the pocket of her uniform. What she felt inside made every drop of blood leave her face. Emma's fingers froze inside the pocket of her apron. She could feel something.
Small, cold, hard.
Her breathing stopped. The entire room watched in complete silence. Victoria folded her arms.
"Go ahead," she said.
"Take it out." Emma slowly pulled her hand from her pocket. A small velvet jewelry pouch rested in her trembling palm. Gasps echoed through the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another guest stepped backward. "I knew it." Emma stared at the pouch as if she'd never seen it before. I don't know where this came from." Victoria laughed bitterly. "Of course you don't." Emma shook her head. "No, someone put this there." Richard looked uneasy. "Let's not jump to conclusions." Victoria snapped. "The evidence is in her hand, Richard." Daniel remained unusually quiet. His eyes never left the pouch. Not even once. Margaret took one slow step forward. "May I?" Victoria hesitated, then nodded. Margaret carefully opened the velvet pouch. The room leaned in. Emma closed her eyes. She expected to see the priceless Ashcroft diamond ring. Instead, a pair of diamond earrings slipped into Margaret's hand. Not the ring. The room fell silent again. Victoria frowned. "Those aren't mine." Margaret examined them. They belonged to the guest suite collection. Emma looked confused. "I've never seen those before." Victoria's expression hardened. "So, now we're finding stolen jewelry too?" Emma felt the floor disappear beneath her feet.
"No."
"I swear. I've never touched them." The whispers grew louder. Maybe she's been stealing for weeks. Maybe tonight wasn't her first time. Emma wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Why would someone hide earrings in her pocket if the missing item was a ring? That question quietly settled into Margaret's mind, and she never forgot it. Within minutes, the local police arrived. Blue and red lights flashed across the mansion walls. Guests stood in small groups outside, sharing theories before anyone even knew the truth. Inside the library, Detective Olivia Grant began taking statements. She was 43.
Calm.
Patient. Known for solving cases by noticing what everyone else ignored. She didn't speak much. She listened. A lot. She entered the library carrying a small notebook. Emma sat alone. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Olivia placed a bottle of water on the table. You can drink if you want. Emma nodded quietly. Thank you. Olivia opened her notebook. Tell me exactly what happened. Emma repeated everything. From polishing upstairs, to seeing Daniel outside the jewelry room, to hearing Victoria scream. She even mentioned finding the velvet pouch. Olivia listened without interrupting. When Emma finished, the detective asked only one question. Have you ever stolen anything? Emma looked directly into her eyes. Never. Olivia watched her for several seconds.
People often lied.
But fear looked different from guilt. Emma looked terrified, not deceptive. Meanwhile, another officer searched Emma's locker in the staff area.
Inside were simple things.
A lunch container, bus tickets, a worn-out sweater, family photos. Nothing expensive, nothing suspicious. One officer picked up a photograph. Emma standing beside an older man in a wheelchair, both smiling. Who's this? Margaret answered softly. Her father. He depends on her. The officer quietly returned the picture. Back in the library, Olivia asked another question. Why do you work here? Emma hesitated, then reached into her bag. She removed several folded medical bills. My father. I need every paycheck. Olivia looked through the documents. Months of rehabilitation, medication,
Therapy.
every bill stamped overdue. You could have sold the ring. Emma nodded sadly. Yes. But if I stole it, I'd lose the one thing my father still believes about me. Olivia didn't write anything. She simply looked at Emma. That answer stayed with her. Outside the library, Victoria spoke loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. I trusted her. This is how she repays us. Several guests nodded sympathetically. Reporters standing beyond the gates began receiving anonymous messages. The headlines started writing themselves. Maid suspected in million-dollar jewel theft. The story spread before midnight. Emma hadn't even been arrested, yet the internet had already convicted her. Daniel stood alone near the balcony. He stared into the gardens below. Sophia quietly joined him. You okay? Daniel forced a smile.
Yeah.
She touched his arm. You don't look okay. I'm just shocked. Sophia studied him carefully. You barely said anything. I didn't know what to say. She waited. So, do you think she took it? Daniel looked away. I don't know. His answer sounded honest. But something else hid beneath it.
Fear.
Not of Emma. Of something entirely different. Around midnight, Detective Olivia requested access to the mansion's security footage. Richard immediately agreed. Of course. Victoria added confidently. That should settle everything. The head of security, Marcus Hale, stepped forward. He was a former military officer. Serious. Professional. Respected by everyone. He carried a tablet in one hand. I'm afraid there's a problem. Olivia looked up. What kind of problem? Marcus swallowed. The cameras covering the jewelry room stopped recording. Silence. When? Olivia asked. Marcus checked his notes. Approximately 8 minutes before the ring disappeared. Olivia narrowed her eyes. And when did they come back online? About 12 minutes later. Victoria gasped. How is that possible? Marcus looked genuinely frustrated. We're still checking. Olivia wrote one sentence. Someone knew about the cameras. The detective asked another question. Which cameras failed? Marcus answered. The jewelry room. The east hallway. The rear staircase. Olivia stopped writing. Only 3 cameras?
Not the whole system.
Someone hadn't caused a random failure. Someone had created a path. A path leading directly to the ring. Emma remained inside the library. She watched officers move around the mansion. She could hear muffled conversations through the closed doors. Every laugh outside sounded like people laughing at her. She quietly wiped another tear away. Margaret entered carrying a blanket. Emma looked up. I didn't do it. Margaret nodded once. I know. Emma blinked. You believe me? Margaret pulled a chair closer. I've worked here 29 years. I've seen guilty people. They talk too much. You've only told the truth. Emma burst into tears. For the first time that night, someone believed her. Margaret lowered her voice. Can I ask you something? Emma nodded. When you saw Daniel upstairs, what exactly was he doing? Emma thought carefully. He kept checking his watch. He looked nervous. He was on the phone. Margaret remained silent. What? Emma asked. Margaret shook her head. Nothing. But it wasn't nothing. Years earlier, she had seen Richard behave the exact same way. The night another valuable family heirloom quietly disappeared. That memory suddenly returned. Why now? Across the mansion, Detective Olivia gathered everyone in the ballroom. I need a timeline. Richard spoke first. I welcome donors. Victoria described her speech. Sophia said she spent most of the evening greeting guests. Daniel claimed he had been answering business calls. Marcus reviewed security duties. Each story sounded believable. Almost too believable. Olivia noticed something strange. Everyone described their own actions perfectly, but almost no one could confirm anyone else's. Interesting. Very interesting. Then she reached Emma. Where were you? Emma answered honestly. Cleaning upstairs. Anyone see you? She hesitated. I saw Daniel. Every eye immediately shifted toward him. Daniel looked surprised. Briefly. Emma nodded. He was outside the jewelry room. Daniel smiled nervously. I was just taking a phone call. Olivia asked, Can anyone confirm that? Daniel looked toward Sophia. She slowly shook her head. I didn't see him until after the scream. The room became uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. Victoria immediately interrupted. This is ridiculous. My son isn't a suspect. Olivia remained calm. At this point, everyone is. No one liked that answer, especially Victoria. Hours passed. Officers photographed every hallway, collected fingerprints, interviewed employees, searched trash bins. Nothing. The ring had disappeared without leaving a trace. Almost. Around 3 a.m, Olivia walked through the now empty ballroom. She stopped beside the glass display case. No signs of forced entry. No broken lock. No shattered glass. Whoever removed the ring opened the case normally. They knew the access code. She turned toward Richard. Who knows the code? Richard answered immediately. My wife. My son. Myself. And Marcus. Only 4 people. Emma wasn't one of them. Olivia quietly wrote another note. Then another. As the guests finally left, one elderly woman approached Emma. She had attended every Whitmore gala for years. She looked at Emma with kind eyes. I don't think you did it. Emma almost cried again. Thank you. The woman leaned closer. I saw something. Emma's heart raced. What? Before she could answer, a voice called from outside. Mrs. Langford. The elderly woman turned. I have to go. She squeezed Emma's hand. If they let me, I'll come back tomorrow. Then she disappeared into the night. Emma watched her leave. She had almost said something important. Something that might have changed everything. Who was she about to name? Just before sunrise, Olivia stood alone in the security office. She replayed every available camera angle.
Kitchen. Driveway.
Front entrance.
Garden.
Everything looked normal.
Then,
one clip caught her attention. 8 minutes before the cameras failed, a man wearing black gloves briefly walked past the east hallway. His face never appeared. Only one hand. On that hand, a silver signet ring. Large. Square-shaped. Decorated with a lion engraved into the metal. Olivia paused the video.
Zoomed in.
The image became blurry, but the ring remained visible. It was unusual, expensive, easy to recognize. She whispered to herself. Who wears that? She printed the frame, folded it carefully, and slipped it into her notebook. The clues seemed small, almost meaningless. But months from now, that single ring would expose a lie nobody imagined. At 7 that morning, Emma finally received permission to leave. She wasn't arrested. Not yet. But she wasn't cleared either. Reporters surrounded the mansion gates. Cameras flashed relentlessly. Emma, did you steal the ring? Where is it? Did someone help you? She covered her face and hurried toward the bus stop. No one offered to protect her. No one except one person. Daniel. He stepped outside, looked at the reporters, looked at Emma, then suddenly stopped. He wanted to say something. She could see it. Instead, he slowly turned around, walked back into the mansion, and closed the front door behind him. Emma watched the door shut. In that moment, she realized something painful. Whether he believed she was innocent or not, he wasn't willing to stand beside her. And inside the mansion, someone quietly smiled, because the real plan had only just begun. The next morning, Emma woke to the sound of her phone vibrating nonstop. She reached for it with tired hands. Dozens of missed calls. Hundreds of messages. None of them were kind. You thief. We trusted people like you. I hope you go to prison. Someone had even posted her photo online. Another person had shared the address of the apartment building where she lived. Emma quickly locked her phone. Her hands were shaking. She had not been charged with a crime. Yet the world had already decided she was guilty. But hidden among the hateful messages, one text had no name attached. Only one sentence. Don't trust anyone inside that house. Emma stared at the screen. Who sent it? Why wouldn't they reveal themselves? Before she could think any further, the message disappeared. The number became unavailable. It was as if it had never existed. Who wanted to warn her? And why were they hiding? Emma tried to ignore the noise outside. She made herself a cup of instant coffee. The apartment felt unusually quiet. On the kitchen table sat a small notebook. Every page contained numbers.
Rent.
Medical bills. Bus fare. Her father's therapy. She crossed out another payment she could no longer make. Without her job at the Whitmore estate, everything was falling apart. She looked toward the coffee can beneath her bed. Months of savings. Almost gone. She closed her eyes. I'll figure it out, she whispered, even though she had no idea how. Later that afternoon, Emma visited her father. She almost turned back twice.
She didn't want him to see her like this.
Broken, exhausted, ashamed. But when she entered room 214, he smiled. The same gentle smile. He didn't know about the news. Not yet. Emma sat beside him. She held his hand, without saying a word. After several quiet moments, she finally spoke. I lost my job. Her father's smile slowly faded. They think I stole something. His eyes filled with worry. Emma forced herself to smile. I didn't. I promise. A tear rolled down her father's face.
He couldn't speak.
But he slowly lifted his trembling hand and placed it over hers. He believed her. Without questions. Without proof. Without hesitation. Emma broke down crying. Across town, Detective Olivia Grant hadn't gone home. The case bothered her. Something didn't fit. If Emma had stolen the ring, why would someone place unrelated earrings in her pocket? Professional thieves didn't make mistakes like that. And nervous first-time thieves didn't usually stay inside the mansion after stealing millions of dollars. She pinned photographs across the investigation board.
Emma.
Victoria. Richard. Daniel. Sophia. Marcus. Margaret. 7 faces. 1 missing ring. She stared at them for several minutes. Then circled one detail. The security cameras failed only along one path. Not randomly. Deliberately. Someone knew the mansion. Very well. That afternoon, Olivia returned to the Whitmore estate. The mansion looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Inside, she found Margaret supervising the cleaning staff. Margaret looked exhausted. You came back. Olivia nodded. I have more questions. Margaret dismissed the other employees. When they were alone, Olivia asked, Has anything unusual happened here before? Margaret didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked toward the large dining room window. Rain tapped softly against the glass. Finally, she spoke. 7 years ago, a family heirloom disappeared. Olivia looked up. What happened? It was a gold pocket watch, worth much less than the ring, but priceless to Richard. Olivia frowned. Was it recovered? Margaret slowly shook her head.
No.
Were the police called? Another pause.
No.
Why not? Margaret looked uncomfortable. Mr. Whitmore said it wasn't necessary. Olivia narrowed her eyes. The same man who called police immediately this time? Margaret nodded. Yes. Interesting. Very interesting. Olivia walked through the upstairs hallway again. Every step echoed softly. She stopped outside the jewelry room. The door stood slightly open. Everything had been dusted. Too perfectly. She crouched beside the display case. Then noticed something tiny beneath it. A thread. Dark blue. Almost invisible against the carpet. She carefully picked it up using tweezers. It wasn't from a maid's gray uniform, nor from a security guard's black suit. She sealed it inside an evidence bag. Small clues solved big cases. Sometimes. Meanwhile, Daniel drove alone to a quiet lakeside park. He checked his mirrors twice before parking. 5 minutes later, a black SUV pulled beside him. A man stepped out.
Tall. Clean-shaven.
Expensive watch. No smile. Daniel remained inside his car. The man knocked once on the window. Daniel lowered it slightly. You shouldn't have come. The stranger answered coldly. You missed our deadline. Daniel swallowed. I need more time. You've already had more time. No one was supposed to get hurt. The man leaned closer. No one has. Yet. Daniel looked around nervously. You promised this would stay private. The stranger smiled. I promise nothing. Then he walked back to the SUV. Within seconds, it disappeared down the road. Daniel remained frozen behind the steering wheel. Who was that man? What deadline was he talking about? And what secret was Daniel trying so desperately to hide? Back at the mansion, Sophia entered Victoria's private sitting room carrying tea. Victoria wasn't reading. She was staring at the empty jewelry box. I still can't believe it. Sophia gently placed the tea beside her. We'll find it, Victoria sighed. You sound confident. Sophia smiled softly. I believe the truth always comes out. Victoria laughed quietly. You still believe in fairy tales. Sophia looked at the jewelry box. Did many people know where the ring was kept? Victoria answered immediately. Only family. And Marcus. Sophia hesitated. What about Daniel? Victoria looked surprised. Of course Daniel knew. Sophia nodded slowly. She didn't ask another question. But something about Victoria's answer stayed with her. That evening, Emma sat in her apartment searching for work online. Every application ended the same way. Position filled. Or worse, we've decided to move forward with another candidate. She knew why. The news had spread everywhere. No employer wanted someone accused of stealing a priceless diamond. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered carefully. Hello. No response. Only breathing. Heavy breathing. Then a man's voice. Stop talking to the detective. Emma's heart skipped. Who is this?
Click.
The line went dead. Emma immediately locked every door in her apartment. For the first time, she wasn't just afraid of being blamed. She was afraid someone wanted to silence her. The following morning, Detective Olivia requested phone records from everyone present during the gala. Most cooperated. One person hesitated. Marcus, the head of security. He remained professional, but his jaw tightened. Is that really necessary? Olivia answered calmly. It is. Marcus finally handed over his phone. Nothing suspicious appeared. No deleted messages. No unusual calls. Almost too clean. Olivia had investigated enough cases to recognize that feeling. When evidence looked perfect, someone had usually worked hard to make it that way. As she prepared to leave, Olivia noticed a framed photograph hanging in Marcus's office. It showed the mansion staff at a Christmas party 3 years earlier. Everyone smiled at the camera. Emma looked younger. Margaret stood proudly beside her. Richard and Victoria stood in the center. Daniel smiled with one arm around Marcus. Olivia leaned closer. Marcus wasn't wearing gloves. On his right hand, a plain wedding band. Not the silver lion signet ring from the security footage. She quietly stepped away. One suspect ruled out. But the mystery ring remained. That afternoon, Mrs. Eleanor Langford finally returned, the elderly guest from the gala. She arrived carrying a small handbag. "I need to speak with Detective Grant." Olivia welcomed her inside. "You said you saw something." Mrs. Langford nodded. "I wasn't sure it mattered. Now I think it does." Olivia switched on a recorder. "Please begin." The older woman closed her eyes, replaying the memory. Just before Victoria screamed, "I saw someone leave the east hallway." Olivia leaned forward. "Who?" Mrs. Langford frowned. "I couldn't see the face. It happened very quickly." "What did you notice?" She thought carefully. The person was wearing dark clothing. And she hesitated. There was something shiny on the hand. Olivia reached into her folder. She placed the printed image from the security footage on the table. "The ring?" Mrs. Langford's eyes widened. "Yes. That's it. The lion." Olivia's pulse quickened. Now two separate pieces of evidence matched. The mysterious signet ring was real. Not a camera glitch. Not imagination. Someone inside that mansion wore it. But who? That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She replayed every moment of the gala again and again. The ballroom.
The guests.
Daniel's phone call. Victoria's scream. Then suddenly, a memory surfaced. So small she had ignored it before. When Daniel walked away from the jewelry room, someone else had been standing at the far end of the hallway. Only for a second. She never saw the face. Only a reflection in one of the decorative mirrors. A person wearing dark blue. Emma sat upright in bed. Dark blue. The same color as the thread Detective Olivia had found beneath the display case.
Could they be connected?
Or was her exhausted mind creating hope where none existed? She grabbed her phone. It was nearly midnight. Too late to call. She decided she would tell Olivia first thing in the morning. Unaware. Someone was already watching her apartment from across the street. A figure stood inside a parked car with the headlights off. The engine idled quietly. The person picked up a phone. Only 4 words were spoken. She remembers something now. The call ended. The car slowly pulled away into the darkness. Someone had just realized their carefully planned crime was beginning to crack, and they were willing to do whatever it took to keep the truth buried. The next morning, Emma didn't wait. Before sunrise, she was already standing outside the police station. She hadn't slept. Dark circles framed her eyes. Her hands still trembled from the phone call and from the memory that refused to leave her mind. Detective Olivia Grant arrived carrying a cup of coffee. She noticed Emma immediately. "You've remembered something." It wasn't a question. Emma nodded. "I think so." Olivia unlocked her office. "Come in." Emma took a deep breath. "I don't know if it matters." "Tell me anyway." Emma closed her eyes. When Daniel walked away from the jewelry room, "I saw someone." Olivia leaned forward. "You saw their face?" Emma slowly shook her head. "No. I only saw their reflection. In a mirror." "What were they wearing?" "A dark blue jacket." Olivia reached into her evidence folder. She carefully removed the tiny thread found beneath the display case. "Like this color?" Emma looked closely. Her eyes widened. "Yes. I'm almost sure." Olivia didn't celebrate. She simply wrote another note. Dark blue clothing. Unknown person. Sometimes the smallest memory changed everything. Meanwhile, the Whitmore mansion looked strangely quiet. The gala decorations had been removed. Fresh flowers replaced the ones that had wilted overnight. To anyone driving past, it looked like life had returned to normal.
Inside.
Nothing felt normal. Victoria barely left her bedroom. Richard spent hours making phone calls behind closed doors. Daniel avoided everyone. Even the staff whispered instead of talking. The missing ring had poisoned the house. Margaret noticed something unusual that morning. One of the upstairs hallway rugs had been replaced. It was identical to the old one. Same color. Same pattern. But Margaret had worked there for 29 years. She remembered everything. She called one of the maintenance workers. "When was this rug changed?" The young man looked confused. "Yesterday." "Who ordered it?" He checked his clipboard. "Mr. Marcus, the head of security." Margaret frowned. "Why?" He said the old one had been damaged. Margaret stared toward the hallway. Damaged? She had cleaned that rug herself the morning before the gala. There wasn't a single stain, not even a loose thread. Then why replace it? Detective Olivia returned to the mansion just after noon. Margaret quietly pulled her aside. The hallway rug. Olivia looked puzzled. What about it? It was replaced. When? The day after the theft. Olivia immediately walked upstairs. The new rug looked perfect. Too perfect. She asked officers to roll it back. Underneath. Nothing. No hidden jewelry. No fingerprints. But Olivia wasn't looking for those. She examined the hardwood floor. Near the wall, a tiny scratch.
Fresh.
As if something heavy had been dragged across it. She measured the distance. The scratch led directly beneath a decorative wooden cabinet. Move it. Two officers carefully slid the cabinet aside. Everyone stared. Behind it, a small square opening, hidden inside the wall. Olivia crouched. The compartment was empty, but thick dust covered everything, except one clean rectangle. Something had recently been hidden there. Something about the size of a jewelry box. Margaret whispered. I've never seen that compartment before. Neither had anyone else.
Who knew it existed?
And why had it already been emptied? Downstairs. Daniel watched from the staircase. His face lost all color. Sophia quietly noticed. You okay? Daniel forced another smile.
Yeah.
But his hands were shaking again. Sophia didn't say anything. She simply watched him. For the first time, she wasn't sure she knew the man she planned to marry. Later that afternoon, Olivia requested the mansion's renovation blueprints. Richard looked surprised. Why? I found a hidden compartment. Richard frowned. There shouldn't be one. The blueprints arrived an hour later. Every wall, every hallway, every room. Olivia spread them across the dining table. She traced the upstairs hallway with her finger, then stopped. The hidden compartment wasn't on the original plans. It had been added later, quietly, without official records. Someone had built it in secret. Who handled renovations? Olivia asked. Richard answered. My brother. Olivia looked up. I thought he passed away years ago. He did. Before he died. He supervised remodeling. Olivia wrote down another name. Edward Whitmore. Even though he was gone, his decisions still shaped the house. And maybe, this mystery. That evening, Emma received another unexpected visitor. A young woman knocked on her apartment door. She looked nervous. My name is Lily. Emma frowned. I'm sorry, do I know you? Lily shook her head. I worked at the Whitmore estate. Emma stepped closer. Worked? I quit 6 months ago. Can we talk? Emma hesitated, then invited her inside. Lily wrapped both hands around a warm cup of tea. I almost didn't come. Emma waited patiently. Lily finally spoke. I saw things in that house. What kind of things? She lowered her voice. People being blamed for things they didn't do. Emma's heartbeat quickened. What do you mean? Lily sighed. One gardener was accused of breaking an antique statue. He was fired. Later, I found out it had already been cracked. Emma frowned. Did anyone tell the truth? Lily slowly shook her head.
No.
Everyone stayed quiet.
Why?
Because people who questioned the family never worked there again. Emma felt a chill run through her body. Was she the first innocent employee to be blamed? Or just the latest? Before leaving, Lily handed Emma a folded piece of paper. I found this in the staff laundry room weeks before I quit. Emma unfolded it. It looked like part of an old maintenance checklist. Most of it meant nothing, until she reached one handwritten sentence. Camera inspection moved to Thursday. Confirm with MH. Emma looked up. MH. Lily nodded. I always assumed it meant Marcus Hale, the head of security. Emma carefully folded the paper again. This wasn't proof, but it was another clue. And every clue mattered. Across town, Daniel sat alone in his office. His phone rang. The same unknown number. He answered immediately. I told you not to call me. The familiar voice replied. You've become a problem. I kept my promise.
No.
You lost control. Daniel clenched his jaw. I won't let anyone else get hurt. The caller laughed softly. You don't get to decide that anymore.
Click.
The line disconnected. Daniel slammed his phone onto the desk. For the first time, tears filled his eyes. Whatever secret he was hiding, it was destroying him. The following day, Detective Olivia received the renovation records. Most contractors had retired. Some had passed away. Only one remained. Frank Delaney, 71 years old. He agreed to meet immediately. His small workshop smelled of fresh wood and old paint. Olivia showed him the blueprint. Do you remember this renovation? Frank adjusted his glasses, then nodded slowly. I do. Were you involved?
No.
I was offered the job. What happened? Frank smiled bitterly. I turned it down.
Why?
Because the client asked me to build something that didn't belong on the official plans. Olivia's eyes narrowed. The hidden compartment? Frank looked surprised. So, someone found it. Who requested it? Frank remained silent. Several long seconds passed. Finally, he answered. I never met the owner. Only his representative. Who was it? Frank looked toward the workshop window. A man wearing expensive clothes. He always wore. Olivia leaned closer. A silver ring. What kind of ring? Frank closed his eyes, remembering. A square ring. With a lion engraved on it. Olivia's heart skipped. The same ring. Again. The mystery was growing smaller. The circle of suspects was shrinking. But one question became even bigger. Who was the man behind the lion ring? That evening, Emma's phone buzzed once more. This time it was Detective Olivia. I need you to come to the station. Emma's stomach tightened. Did you find something? Olivia answered quietly. I think someone has been following you. Emma froze. What? We found the same black sedan near your apartment 3 nights in a row. Emma looked toward her window. The street outside seemed empty. But now, every parked car looked suspicious. Every stranger looked dangerous. Olivia continued. Until we know who's behind this. Don't go anywhere alone. Emma whispered. Okay. She hung up slowly, then walked to the window. Across the street, a man wearing a dark baseball cap stood beside a newspaper stand. The moment their eyes met, he turned, walked away, and disappeared around the corner. Emma's heart pounded. She wasn't imagining it anymore. Someone really was watching her. But were they trying to scare her? Or stop her before she uncovered the truth? Emma stepped away from the window. She quickly locked it. Then she checked the front door for the 3rd time in less than a minute.
Locked.
She pulled the curtains shut. The apartment suddenly felt much smaller. Every sound outside made her jump. A car door slammed. A dog barked. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. She reached for her phone, wondering if she should call Detective Olivia back. Before she could decide, someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. Emma stopped breathing. Who's there? No answer. Another 3 knocks. Louder this time. Emma didn't move. After nearly a minute, the footsteps faded away. She waited 5 more minutes before opening the peephole. The hallway was empty. But on the floor, a plain white envelope. No name. No address. Only one word written across the front. Emma. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. Inside was a single photograph. It showed her leaving the rehabilitation center after visiting her father. The picture had been taken only 2 days earlier. Someone had been watching her. Not just at home. Everywhere. On the back of the photograph, 3 words were written in black ink. Stop digging.
Now.
Emma immediately called Detective Olivia. Less than 20 minutes later, Olivia arrived with 2 officers. She carefully placed the photograph into an evidence bag. Don't touch anything else. Emma nodded. I've never seen the person who took it. Olivia studied the image. The angle was perfect. Professional. Whoever had followed Emma knew how to stay unnoticed. One officer looked toward the apartment window. No fingerprints on the envelope. Olivia wasn't surprised. The sender expected that. She turned back to Emma. From this moment on, you won't be facing this alone. The following morning, Olivia assigned an unmarked patrol car near Emma's apartment. She didn't tell the media. She didn't tell the Whitmores. The fewer people who knew, the better. As the officers watched the building from a distance, one thing became clear. The mysterious black sedan never returned, almost as if its driver already knew the police were there. That bothered Olivia. Someone seemed to know every move she made. Was there a leak in the investigation? Or was the real thief simply one step ahead? Meanwhile, life inside the Whitmore mansion continued to unravel. Victoria stopped attending charity events. Sponsors began asking uncomfortable questions. The insurance company refused to process the claim until the investigation was complete. Millions of dollars remained frozen. Richard barely slept. Every phone call seemed to bring another problem. The missing ring wasn't just embarrassing anymore. It was becoming a financial disaster. Daniel had changed too. He skipped meetings, ignored friends. His cheerful smile had disappeared. One afternoon, Sophia found him sitting alone in the mansion's greenhouse. The room was filled with orchids and sunlight, yet Daniel looked like a man trapped in darkness. She sat beside him. "You've been avoiding me." He stared at the floor. "I know. Why?" "I've got a lot on my mind." Sophia gently reached for his hand. He pulled it away. Her heart sank. "Daniel, is there something you're not telling me?" He opened his mouth, closed it again. Several painful seconds passed. Finally, he whispered, "If I tell you the truth, you'll never look at me the same way." Sophia's eyes filled with concern. "Try me." Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. One message. His face turned pale. He stood up immediately. "I have to go." Sophia grabbed his arm. "Daniel." He looked back. For just a second, there was fear in his eyes. Real fear. Then he walked away, without another word. Sophia watched him disappear through the glass doors. She loved him, but she no longer trusted him. That afternoon, Detective Olivia received the phone records she had requested days earlier. Most calls matched exactly what everyone had claimed, except one. Marcus Hale, the head of security. His phone showed a 7-minute gap. No incoming calls. No outgoing calls. No location data. Almost as if the device had been turned off. Olivia checked the timestamp. The exact same 7 minutes, when the security cameras had failed. She frowned. That couldn't be ignored. She drove to the mansion immediately. Marcus welcomed her politely. "You wanted to see me?" Olivia placed the phone records on the table. "Your phone went offline." Marcus glanced at the paper. "My battery died." Olivia remained calm. "At exactly the same time the cameras stopped working?" Marcus shrugged. "Bad luck." Olivia watched his face carefully. Most people answered questions. Marcus answered too quickly, as though he had practiced. She thanked him and left. But in her notebook, she wrote one sentence. "Marcus knows more than he's saying." Later that evening, Margaret asked Olivia to meet her in the old servants' kitchen. She closed the door before speaking. "I remembered something." Olivia waited. Marcus wasn't always head of security. "I know. He worked as Richard's personal assistant first." Olivia looked surprised. "For how long?" "Nearly 10 years. Then suddenly, he became head of security." "Why?" Margaret slowly shook her head. No one ever explained. Olivia wrote another note. Marcus had unusual access. He knew the family. He knew the mansion. He knew the cameras. And now, his phone had gone dark during the theft. The puzzle pieces were beginning to move. Across town, Emma received a call from the rehabilitation center. Her heart raced. She answered immediately. "Is my father okay?" The nurse hesitated. "Physically, yes." But what? A man came asking questions about him. Emma's stomach dropped. What kind of questions? He wanted to know who paid the medical bills, what time you usually visit, and whether your father ever stays alone. Emma gripped the phone tightly. "Did he give his name?" "No." "Can you describe him?" The nurse thought for a moment. "He wore a navy blue jacket." Emma froze. Navy blue. The same color she remembered in the hallway. The same color as the thread beneath the display case. The same color that kept appearing again and again. Whoever this man was, he wasn't just watching Emma anymore. He had found the one person she loved most. Olivia immediately placed extra security around the rehabilitation center. She also requested surveillance footage from nearby businesses. Hours later, one convenience store camera captured the mysterious visitor. The image wasn't clear. His face remained hidden beneath a baseball cap. But one detail stood out. As he paid for a bottle of water, his right hand became visible. On one finger, a silver signet ring, with a lion engraved on it. Olivia stared at the frozen frame. The ring again. Always the ring. Never the face. Whoever this man was, he was getting careless. Meanwhile, Sophia couldn't ignore her instincts anymore. That night, she quietly entered Daniel's home office. She wasn't looking for secrets. She was looking for answers. She opened one drawer. Business papers. Another drawer. Old family photos. The third drawer was locked. She hesitated, then remembered something. Daniel always kept a spare key inside a small globe on the bookshelf. She found it exactly where she expected. The drawer opened.
Inside.
No cash. No jewelry. Only a thick folder. Its cover read, Private Loan Agreement. Sophia opened the first page. Her eyes widened. Daniel owed someone $3 million. Payment overdue. Final notice. Attached to the paperwork was a handwritten message. Miss the next deadline and your family pays the price. Sophia's hands began to shake. Was Daniel stealing to pay a debt?
Or was someone using that debt to control him?
Before she could read another page, a floorboard creaked behind her. She spun around. Daniel stood in the doorway. His face was filled with shock. Then disappointment. You weren't supposed to see that. Sophia slowly lowered the folder. What is this? Daniel closed the office door. It's complicated.
No.
She shook her head. It's simple. Are you in trouble? Daniel looked at the floor. For several long seconds, he said nothing. Then, very quietly, he answered, More than you can imagine. Sophia waited for him to explain. Instead, he reached into his pocket, removed his phone, and handed it to her. There are messages on there. I couldn't delete them. They're the reason all of this started. Sophia looked at the phone, then back at Daniel. Just as she unlocked the screen, a new message appeared. Only one sentence. You have 24 hours left. Neither of them noticed. Someone was watching the office through the hallway security camera. And somewhere else in the mansion, a pair of eyes smiled. The countdown had begun. Sophia looked at the glowing phone screen. The message was still there. You have 24 hours left. Her hands trembled. She slowly looked back at Daniel. What does this mean? Daniel closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked like a man who had been carrying the weight of the world alone. I've been trying to protect everyone. Sophia's voice cracked. Then stop hiding. Tell me the truth. Daniel walked to the window. Rain slid down the glass in thin streams. He spoke without turning around. 3 years ago, I invested in a company. It failed. I lost millions. Sophia stared at him. I thought you recovered. So did everyone else. Daniel let out a bitter laugh. I borrowed money to hide the loss. Then I borrowed more money to pay the first loan. It never stopped. Sophia slowly understood. The $3 million. Daniel nodded. I owed dangerous people. Why didn't you tell your father? Daniel's shoulders tightened. Because he built this family on one rule. Never fail. I was terrified he would never forgive me. Sophia stepped closer. So, someone started threatening you? Daniel nodded again. At first, they wanted money. Then, they wanted something else. The ring. The room fell silent. Sophia's heartbeat echoed in her ears. They wanted the Ashcroft Diamond? Daniel whispered. Yes. Across town, Detective Olivia received an urgent call. The digital forensics team had finally recovered deleted data from one of the mansion's backup servers. Most of the missing security footage was still corrupted, but not all of it. One technician pointed to the monitor. We found 8 seconds. Only 8. Olivia leaned forward. Play it. The grainy footage appeared. The image flickered. Static covered half the screen. Then, a figure entered the east hallway. Dark blue jacket. Black gloves. The person stopped beside the jewelry room, reached into a pocket, typed something into a keypad. The display case unlocked. The figure disappeared inside. The video froze. Only 8 seconds. No face. But one crucial detail. The person entered the security code on the first attempt. No hesitation. They already knew it. Olivia immediately wrote 4 names. Richard, Victoria, Daniel, Marcus. Only they knew the code. The circle had become much smaller. Meanwhile, Emma received another call, this time from Margaret. Her voice sounded rushed. "Emma, you need to come." Emma's heart raced. "What happened?" "I found something." "What is it?" "I can't explain over the phone." "Just come." Emma arrived at the mansion an hour later. The police had already searched every room dozens of times. She wasn't sure what Margaret could possibly have found. Margaret quietly led her to the old laundry room in the basement. She closed the door behind them, then pointed toward an old wooden shelf. "I've been cleaning here for decades. I noticed something missing." Emma looked confused. "What?" Margaret reached behind the shelf. She pulled out a small metal box covered in dust. Inside, old employee records, pay stubs, maintenance logs. Nothing unusual. Until Margaret opened the false bottom. Hidden beneath it, a tiny notebook. The pages were yellow with age. Each page listed dates, names, amounts of money. Emma frowned. "What is this?" Margaret looked uneasy. "I think it's a payment ledger." Emma flipped through more pages. Most entries made no sense. Then one name appeared over and over again. M. Hale. Marcus Hale. Beside the name were thousands of dollars in unexplained payments. Some dated back more than 10 years. Why had Marcus been receiving secret payments for so long? And who had been paying him? At the same time, Olivia questioned Richard Whitmore once again. She placed the newly recovered footage on the table. The thief knew the code. Richard nodded. "I already told you. Only 4 people knew it." Olivia watched him carefully. "Is there anyone else?" Richard hesitated. Only for a second. Then, "My late brother." Olivia looked up. "But he's been dead for years." Richard quietly answered. "Yes." Silence filled the room. Something about his hesitation bothered Olivia. It wasn't grief. It was guilt. That evening, Sophia finally showed Olivia the messages from Daniel's phone. Threat after threat. Weeks of intimidation. Photographs taken outside the mansion. Outside Daniel's office. Outside Emma's apartment. The same unknown sender. The same demand. "Bring us the ring." Olivia looked at Daniel. "Why didn't you tell us?" Daniel lowered his head. "Because they said they'd kill someone." "Who?" Daniel's answer barely escaped his lips. "My mother." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "You were trying to save her." Daniel nodded. "I thought I could fix it myself. You should have trusted someone." "I know, but I was too late." The next morning, the forensic lab called. The dark blue thread recovered beneath the display case had finally been analyzed. Olivia opened the report. The fabric wasn't from a security uniform. It wasn't from a business suit. It wasn't from the Maid uniforms either. It came from one very specific material. Custom-made Italian wool. A luxury fabric sold to only a handful of designers in the city. Olivia immediately requested customer records. Hours later, only 3 local buyers matched. 1 fashion boutique, 1 theater company, and a private tailor. The tailor's records showed only 2 recent clients had ordered navy blue jackets made from that exact fabric. One belonged to a city council member. The other was registered under the initials E.W. Olivia stared at the page. E.W. Edward Whitmore? Impossible. Edward had died years ago. So, why was someone still ordering clothing under his initials? Later that afternoon, Olivia drove to the tailor shop. The elderly tailor recognized the order immediately. "Oh yes. The navy jacket. Do you remember who collected it?" The tailor smiled. "Certainly. It wasn't Mr. Whitmore. It was another gentleman. Do you know his name?" "No. But he always wore a silver ring." Olivia's pulse quickened. "The lion?" The tailor looked surprised. Exactly. You've seen it before? Olivia didn't answer. Instead, she showed him several photographs. Richard, Daniel, Marcus. The tailor studied each face, then slowly shook his head.
No.
It wasn't any of them. Olivia frowned. You're sure? I'm positive. Then the tailor pointed toward one photo hanging on his own wall. A charity event from 2 years earlier. Several businessmen stood together. One man had his back turned. Only his right hand was visible. On it, the same lion signet ring. Olivia stepped closer. The photograph caption listed everyone's names. She read them one by one, then stopped. Her heartbeat quickened. The final name made her freeze. It wasn't a Whitmore. It wasn't Marcus. It was someone the investigation had barely mentioned. Someone who had quietly been present from the beginning. Someone everyone trusted. Olivia immediately took out her phone. She called Emma. Listen carefully. What happened? I know who owns the lion ring. Emma held her breath. Who is it? Before Olivia could answer, the lines suddenly filled with static.
Then,
silence. The call had been cut off. At that exact moment, across the city, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot outside the rehabilitation center. Emma's father was inside, alone, and someone had just stepped out of the vehicle. Emma's phone slipped from her hand. The call had ended. Detective Olivia's final words echoed in her mind. I know who owns the lion ring. Then, nothing. Emma tried calling back. No answer. Again. Straight to voicemail. Her heart raced. Just then, another call came in. This time, it was from the rehabilitation center. Emma answered immediately. Hello. A frightened nurse spoke through heavy breathing. Emma? There's a man here asking for your father. Emma stood up, so quickly her chair fell over. What does he look like? Tall. Dark jacket. Baseball cap. He said he's family. Emma didn't wait for another word. I'm coming. She grabbed her keys and ran out the door. Across town, Detective Olivia slammed the steering wheel. Her phone signal had been jammed. Not lost. Jammed. Someone didn't want Emma to hear the name. She radioed the nearest patrol units. All available officers. Respond to Brookhaven Rehabilitation Center immediately. This is a priority. Police sirens echoed through the city. But Olivia feared they were already too late. Emma arrived just seconds before 2 police cars. She rushed through the front entrance. The receptionist pointed toward room 214. He went that way. Emma sprinted down the hallway. Her heart pounded louder with every step. She reached her father's room. The door was open. The bed was empty. No. She looked around wildly, then heard a faint sound from the therapy garden behind the building. She ran outside. There, she saw her father sitting in his wheelchair beneath a large oak tree. A man stood beside him, back turned. Navy blue jacket, black gloves. Emma froze. The man slowly turned around. His face was hidden beneath a cap and sunglasses. But one thing caught the sunlight. A silver signet ring, with a lion engraved on it. The ring. Emma whispered. The man smiled. So, you finally noticed. Before Emma could move, police cars surrounded the garden. Officers stepped out with weapons drawn. Don't move. The man calmly raised his hands, almost as if he had expected them. Detective Olivia walked forward. Take off the cap. The man removed it. Emma stared in disbelief. I know you. It was Charles Bennett, Richard Whitmore's longtime family attorney. The same man who had quietly attended every family meeting. The same man who comforted Victoria after the theft. The same man no one had ever suspected. Olivia nodded. The lion ring belongs to you. Charles smiled. Very impressive. Emma couldn't believe it. You framed me. Charles looked at her without emotion. You were convenient. Richard and Victoria arrived minutes later. The moment Richard saw Charles, his face turned white. You, Charles laughed softly. You didn't think I'd disappear forever, did you? Victoria looked confused. Richard. What is he talking about? Richard couldn't answer. His silence said everything. Olivia stepped between them. I think it's time everyone hears the truth. The police escorted everyone to the Whitmore mansion. The grand ballroom, once filled with laughter, had become an investigation room. Family members, staff, police officers, reporters waiting outside. Everyone was there. Olivia placed several pieces of evidence on a large table. The lion ring, the payment ledger, the navy blue fabric report, the security footage, the threatening messages. Then she faced Charles. "You planned this for months." Charles shrugged. "For years." Emma looked confused. "Why?" Charles smiled coldly. "Because the Whitmore family owed me." Olivia continued. "Years ago, Richard and Charles secretly invested in a risky overseas project." Richard lowered his head. "It failed." Charles interrupted. "No. It was stolen. We both lost everything." Richard finally spoke. "I rebuilt my company." Charles laughed bitterly. "And left me behind." Victoria looked at her husband in shock. "You never told me," Richard whispered. "I was ashamed." Charles slowly walked around the room. "I spent years watching this family enjoy their perfect lives, while mine fell apart. So I waited. I became their trusted attorney. I learned everything. The alarm codes, the camera system, the hidden compartment, the family secrets." Emma suddenly understood. The hidden wall compartment. Charles nodded. "I had it built during the renovation, so I could use it one day." Margaret gasped. "You planned this years in advance." Charles smiled. "I believe in patience." Olivia picked up the evidence bag containing the blue thread. "You disabled the cameras." Charles nodded. "Marcus helped me." The room fell silent. Everyone turned toward Marcus. He closed his eyes. "I never wanted anyone hurt." Victoria stared at him. "You betrayed us?" Marcus looked ashamed. "Charles had proof that I accepted illegal payments years ago. He blackmailed me. He said if I refused, my family would lose everything." Olivia held up the payment ledger. "The secret payments." Marcus nodded slowly. "I made one mistake years ago. He owned me after that." Emma stepped forward. "What about the earrings?" Charles smiled. "I placed them in your apron." "Why?" "Because if police found the ring immediately, the investigation would end too quickly. I needed everyone looking at you, so I planted something else." Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You destroyed my life." Charles answered without remorse. "I borrowed it." Daniel suddenly stood. "No. You almost destroyed hers. And you destroyed mine." Everyone looked at him. Daniel faced the room. "My debt was real. But Charles used it. He threatened my mother. He sent those messages. He wanted me to leave the jewelry room unlocked. I refused. So he stole the ring anyway." Sophia quietly took Daniel's hand. This time, he didn't pull away. Olivia nodded. The recovered security footage proved Daniel never entered the jewelry room. It showed Charles using the code. The rest of the footage was erased, but not completely. Charles sighed. "I underestimated technology." "No," Olivia answered. "You underestimated people." Then came the final surprise. One officer entered carrying a sealed evidence box. "We found this." Everyone turned. Inside the box, wrapped inside waterproof plastic, lay the Ashcroft Diamond Ring, perfectly preserved. It had been hidden inside the stone base of the mansion fountain, exactly where Charles planned to retrieve it after the investigation ended. Victoria burst into tears. She carefully looked at the ring. Then, she looked at Emma. For several long seconds, she couldn't speak. Finally, she walked toward her. "I'm sorry." Emma looked into her eyes. Victoria continued. "I judged you before I knew the truth. I cared more about my jewelry than your dignity." Tears rolled down Emma's face. Those words didn't erase what had happened, but they mattered. Outside, reporters gathered as police led Charles away in handcuffs. Camera flashes filled the night. This time, the headlines were different. Maid falsely accused. Security footage exposes real thief. Lawyer arrested after years-long plot. The truth spread just as quickly as the lie had. But Emma knew something important. The truth always arrived later. A week later, the Whitmore family held another gathering. Not for a celebration, for an apology. Every employee attended. Richard stepped onto a small stage. I failed to protect someone who trusted my family. He looked directly at Emma. I can't change what happened, but I can accept responsibility. He announced that Emma would receive full compensation for the emotional damage, lost wages, legal expenses, and every medical bill for her father's treatment. The room erupted into applause. Emma covered her mouth. She had never expected that. Months later, her father stood on his own for the first time during therapy. Only a few seconds. But they were the most beautiful seconds of Emma's life. She smiled through tears. We did it, Dad.
He still struggled to speak.
But one word finally escaped his lips. Proud. Emma hugged him tightly. Neither of them wanted to let go. Daniel and Sophia postponed their wedding. Not because they stopped loving each other. Because they wanted to begin their marriage with honesty instead of secrets. Daniel worked with investigators to expose the criminal lending network that had trapped him. Marcus accepted responsibility for his crimes and cooperated with authorities, helping dismantle the blackmail operation. Margaret remained at the Whitmore estate, where Richard finally gave her the respect she had earned over 3 decades of loyal service. As for Victoria, she never again referred to employees as the staff. She learned their names. She learned their stories. And she never forgot Emma's. Some people steal money. Some people steal trust. But the hardest thing to steal is the truth. Because no matter how deeply it's buried, no matter how carefully it's hidden, the truth has a way of finding the light. And sometimes, the person everyone calls guilty is the one brave enough to keep telling the truth until the world finally listens.